The Flash Reborn explained. Hi, how are you? It's great to see you. I'm RazMansReality, here to alter your reality with another video on The Flash Season 4. So if this is your first time here and film, TV, and comics is your passion, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell notification icon so that you don't miss anything. Okay, so addressing the big elephant in the obvious room, why am I doing a video that was intended to be a Wednesday series for a Tuesday show all the way on a Sunday? Short answer is technical issues with both the video editor and the photo editor this week. So obviously I am back today, which means those issues have been resolved. So the plan to adjust things, because we fell so far behind on everything, was to make sure I got a dedicated video for the Flash premiere episode for Season 4 out today because of all of the shows that had the most going on this week. And then with Arrow, I will just combine episodes 1 and 2, and we will begin Gotham and the Orville next week as planned this week, and I will just add one more episode to quickly recap before I get into dedicated breakdowns. As far as Legend of Tomorrow Season 3 is concerned, I have made the decision not to do dedicated videos on that show. I simply don't feel as though it is a strong enough show right now to have dedicated episodes attached to it after watching the Season 3 premiere. There will be intriguing things about the show in terms of villains that are coming on later this season, such as Gorilla Grodd and Kuwasa. So if those episodes are strong enough, we will just do separate videos on the villain elements of the show. But as of right now, the plan is to only discuss Legends of Tomorrow during the necessary Crisis on Earth X 4 show 2-night crossover event. So that is the status of my DC TV content this year. It'll be The Flash, Arrow, and also Supergirl. We see Vive and Kid Flash here as the show opens up with Iris West in the trademark monologue for The Flash saying, "My name is Iris West and I was supposed to marry the fastest man alive," establishing that Iris is now the de facto leader of Team Kid Flash. And yes, that's what I am choosing to call them. I don't care what the rest of Team Flash thinks. Team Kid Flash for the win. So Team Kid Flash is attempting to stop a criminal here, and who are they attempting to stop? Why, it's none other than Peekaboo. So it's good to see her return after so many seasons away, as we see Vibe catching her inside his powers here, and then just after this, Wally jumps on her back and takes her down. After they take down Peekaboo and head back to Star Labs, Iris is pretty much admonishing the team and saying that they're not really doing a good job of protecting the city, and that was far from their best efforts. Cisco has a look on his face like, "You're really messed up with what you're saying right now." Iris says to Cisco, "Cisco, do you care to share what you're thinking?" Cisco responds by saying, "I'm thinking how much better off we'd all be if we weren't a man down." And then we see Iris in the background here, looking at the empty Flash suit within Star Labs. We then learn that in the 6 months' time that has passed, that Joe and Cecile's relationship has progressed to the point where they love each other enough to move in together. We also get a funny joke here and learn that Joe West has a full-on collection of vinyl album records, which I thought was a really cool tie into the musical side of both this version of the character as well as the Earth 2 version of Joe West as well. Cecile then leaves the room, and Joe turns to Iris and asks Iris how she can possibly be fine. Buries his son, buries her everything. When HR died, they gave themselves a funeral and a chance to mourn. They need to do the same thing here, and Iris claims to be fine and says, "Really, Dad, what are we supposed to bury? An empty suit within a lab?" They also name drop Julian Albert here in this scene as well, informing the audience that he has moved back to London. And also the fact that since Barry has been on quote-unquote sabbatical for 6 months, that the Central City Police Department is actually looking to hire someone to replace him. So a real good job by the writers here of acknowledging that even in this crazy comic book universe that some semblance of real life would have happened, and that there are some plot holes from the end of season 3 that they would have to address here. So I'm glad that they took a few minutes to do so. A new threat then arrives for the team in the form of a samurai-like figure who demands the Flash. Kid Flash looks at him and says, "You're looking at him, Bao." And the samurai figure is like, "No, you're not the Flash. Bring me the Flash. I want the best." Cisco and Wally still feel pretty confident about themselves, however, and ask the question, what are you going to do against two bad hombres like us with a sword? And as you can see, he then jams the sword into the ground, creating a lightning-like effect, proving that the sword is extremely powerful and that he can do plenty with a sword indeed. There was also a funny side moment in this scene where Keenen Lonsdale, who plays Kid Flash, actually spoke Japanese here, thinking that the samurai was not going to be able to understand English. So I imagine that this was a real life thing where Keenen Lonsdale's like, "Hey, I actually know Japanese, let's work this into the scene." It made me laugh out loud, and I thought it was really, really funny. This threat scares the team, as well it should, so Cisco says that they need to bring Barry back. The rest of the team cautions him and says that they can't do that because, of course, if Barry comes out of the Speed Force is unstable. Cisco then announces that he has found a way to negate the problem, to trick the Speed Force into thinking that Barry is still there while getting him out. Iris is not happy about this and says it will be a reckless, dangerous thing, and tries to convince Cisco not to follow through with his plan. Of course, never one to shy away from anything, particularly when he knows he's in the right. Cisco goes to find Caitlin, and we learn that Caitlin has been working in a bar during the 6-month period between seasons. We don't know why at this point, but we learn, of course, later in the episode. We also, of course, can clearly see that Caitlin is, as Cisco puts it, a lot less frosty than the last time anyone saw her. And she announces that she is indeed just Caitlin. And Cisco convinces Caitlin to help him get Barry out of the Speed Force, something that Caitlin was also aware of. We return to the airfield from season 1, where we see that Cisco has brought back an old friend in the spirit of bringing back old friends in the form of a Speed Force bazooka. He tells Wally and Joe that he and Caitlin spent all night, which, by the way, I forgot to mention that Caitlin and Joe did make up here, and Caitlin did apologize for all her actions as Killer Frost, and Joe was accepting of her and moved on. But anyway, the two inform the rest of the team, meaning Wally and Joe, that they have spent the evening perfecting the Cork Spear. The Cork Spear contains Barry's DNA and his essential genetic markers designed to trick the Speed Force into believing that Barry never left it, while in fact he has. So this will prevent the Speed Force from becoming unstable. When they don't see Barry, the team believes that they have failed to get him out of a Speed Force. A disappointed Iris, who by this point had figured out what the team was up to, looks at them with an "I told you so" kind of look on her face. Unbeknownst, they of course receive the call from Cecile at the police station moments later that this naked Barry Allen had arrived on a random farm road and is indeed returned home. The team, however, is not prepared for the version of Barry that they find when they arrive at the police station, as he has become warped by all of his time in the Speed Force, talking nonsense. However, the nonsense he's speaking isn't really nonsense at all, but it actually lines from past seasons of the show, particularly the pilot episode and episode 2. We also hear one line later on in the next scene which references diapers, which could be a future reference to him having twins, as well as Your Honor, I'm innocent. I didn't do anything, as well as Nora shouldn't be here. So it'll be interesting where the Nora shouldn't be here line comes from. But of course, Your Honor, I'm innocent. I didn't do anything is a direct reference to Trial of the Flash, the second time that the show has referenced Trial of the Flash. So they're pretty much telling us that they're planning on doing that storyline in the future. Hopefully they don't do it this season and have the Thinker be the villain, and they actually do the real story with him killing the Reverse Flash, because it is such an iconic story, and they really did mess up Flashpoint quite a bit. So I don't want to see them do it again with another important comic book storyline. The team takes Barry back to Star Labs, utilizing an injection to knock him out, and then waking him back up with the same Lady Gaga song that we heard in season 1. So that was a nice little callback to the pilot there. But as you can see, Barry is still not himself at this point, still quoting this quote-unquote nonsense and writing things down on the blackboard. At this point, we also hear the line that I mentioned a moment ago about the diapers possibly representing the future. Iris tries to reach Barry and beg him to still be her Barry, and talk about how she tried to do what Barry said, and then she couldn't bear the thought of Barry not being inside with her, only to have this happen. Barry's eyes begin to glow and dart around like crazy, and then he actually knocks Joe and Wally to the ground and runs around the ceiling. They're trying to figure out how in the world they're supposed to stop him, and the decision is made that they have to lock him into the pipeline until they're able to get him under control and he returns to himself. Meanwhile, the team realizes that the Samurai's deadline has come and gone, and they need to deliver the Flash. So Wally comes up with the idea to become the Flash, putting on Barry's season 1 suit to try to fool the Samurai. As you can see here, this clearly does not work, as we see the Samurai raising Wally up by his sword. A direct reference to this comic book cover here, the Flash number 161 from the year 1968, Flash Revenge of the Samuroids. So a double comic book moment, as clearly Wally West as the Flash is a comic book thing as well, having him be in the actual red suit. A discussion with Caitlin helps Cisco to realize that he's been going about trying to crack the messages from Barry, the code, in the wrong way, and that they are presented similar to the Greek alphabet. He runs this decryption through the computer only to receive the message, "This house is bitchin'." And I'm not trying to swear anyone, that is just a repeat of what the actual message is. Now, this message may seem like a joke, but I happen to share the same theory that I came up with on my own, by the way, but was already published on YouTube early in the week by Jason Inman from Jarwin, who stated as well that he feels that this is actually going to be the code that actually brings down the Thinker. Like, everything that Barry is writing down will actually be the code and the way to bring down the Thinker at the end of the year. So this house is bitchin' will be some kind of future thing that Barry has happened to him, that he's told by someone, preferably a future the Flash Wally West, that comes back and triggers Barry's memory and helps Barry be able to bring down the Thinker. Wally's mission having failed reveals a disheartened Cisco to reveal to Caitlin that he didn't free Barry from the Speed Force to save the city. He simply did it because he wanted to free his best friend that he missed, and he feels as though this all may have been a waste of time. This sentiment continues as we see that Joe has cleaned up Barry and given him a clean shave, hoping that it would somehow jar him back to reality and make him feel more like himself, only to realize that Barry is still the same gone person in there. Now, the interesting thing about this particular scene to me was that Barry said a line, and I don't remember the exact wording of the line, but it was something along the lines of, "You said it yourself, she's never been one to shy away from danger." Now, was this another future reference, or was this perhaps a foreshadowing to what happens next? Iris, realizing that she is Barry's linchpin, the thing that always brings him back to wherever he's gone to, and thus surrendering herself to the samurai here, as we see the samurai kidnap her and take her away, because she says to him, "If you want the Flash, take me." Prompting, and of course desperate Joe to return to Barry in the pipeline and scream at him that Iris is going to die. And then we see the lightning return to Barry's eyes. Barry rushes away from the pipeline, breaking it free, showing how powerful he's actually become, puts on the new Flash suit, and races to the rescue. Everyone is like, "What's happening?" Cisco's like, "The Flash suit is gone. The Flash is back." So I really like the language used here, because that's how we all felt. The excited Cisco was the excited all of us. The Flash is back. They also make note that Barry is running faster than any speedster we've seen on the show previously, including Zoom and Reverse Flash, which I found very interesting that they would choose this to happen, because this is the year in which speed is not going to be the driving force in order for the Flash to defeat our main threat. So it was interesting that without speed being a focal point, they could advance the character to a point at which they hadn't done before. Also, what do you guys think of the new suit here? It's very similar to the future Flash suit we saw from season 3, but just a little bit different. I really like it. I think this is as close to comic book suit Barry Allen that the show has ever given us. Barry utilizes his newfound speed and ability to defeat the samurai by leaping into the air and literally bringing him down. One of the coolest moments on the show that I think we've seen thus far. Once he makes certain that Iris is safe, Barry attempts to find out the identity of the samurai, ripping off his helmet to reveal a robotic underneath, and simply someone saying, "Flash, welcome home," proving that this is truly in line from that of the comic books, and this was a samuroid, not a samurai. Iris lovingly says to Barry, "You came back to me." Barry says, "Always." The two share this kiss and return to Team Flash. Caitlin, upon examining Barry, says that the Flash is healthier than they've ever seen him before, minus a urine sample to confirm. Cisco jokes that "you love urine," which is a final reference back to the pilot, in which Caitlin's no wanted a urine sample from Barry Allen when his powers first started to manifest. Barry returns to he and Iris's home and says to Iris that somehow, someway, in a way that he cannot explain, he feels as though his time in the Speed Force was actually a blessing, that all the pain and sorrow and suffering that he suffered from the past, while still there, is no longer haunting him, and has all been just washed away, which I think was a not so subtle wink behind the camera from the writers and producers of The Flash, telling us, the viewers, that they heard all of our complaints from season 3 and that the show has returned to the season 1 version of The Flash that we all know and love. And I absolutely think that this episode has proven that that is the case here. So that is a wonderful thing to see. But of course, naturally, this is The Flash, and surprise, surprise, not everything is as hunky-dory as it would seem, as we see the return of Killer Frost. And what we learn here is that Caitlin still hasn't got the ability to completely manifest a complete control over Killer Frost's powers. She does have a way to push them down and control them and only bring them out when she wants to. The reason they're brought out here is because she tells Norvok, another comic book character who played the guy in the dive bar that was trying to get her away from Cisco earlier in the episode, that I purposely didn't talk about then until now because I knew about this scene, was trying to get her to stay, telling her that she can only leave when Amunet says that she can. So Killer Frost got herself in bed with Aminette Black, better known as the Blacksmith, who, if you didn't know, is the character that the previously announced Katie Sackhoff coming to The Flash will play. A big-time player underneath the Thinker, so we already get a reference to her, and a reference to her that I was not expecting. This is going to be an incredibly interesting storyline going forward in the season. Did Killer Frost join Aminette Black voluntarily, or was she coerced, or was it Caitlin that was coerced into her service? We don't really know, so I'm really intrigued to find out what happens here. The episode is drawn to a close on what I feel like is the biggest post-credit scene in the history of the Flash TV show, when we hear a voice say that the samurai served its purpose, and then we hear another voice say exactly as planned. These voices are the voices of the Tinkerer and the Thinker. Clifford DeVoe, the Thinker, the main big bad, the major villain, revealed already at the end of our season premiere. This is absolutely unprecedented by The Flash. Has never happened before. We never even find out who our big bad is going to be, usually until the midway point of the year. So this was brilliant, because what this does is establish the fact that the Thinker, unbeknownst to the Flash and Team Flash, is going to be pulling every string, like Geppetto did to Pinocchio when Pinocchio had strings. I mean, this is just absolutely fantastic and gave me an absolute goosebumps all over my body in this moment. Now, the other important thing to talk about as we close out here is the symbols. The symbols that I referred to that I believe are going to be the code to bringing down the Thinker. Another reason that I mentioned that is because when you look at what Barry was drawing on the blackboard and you look at the Thinker's face here, they're the same. We also saw these symbols on Norvok's hand. I couldn't get a clear enough close-up shot of Norvok's hand to prove my point here, but trust me, they are there, and I'm sure maybe if you Google around you can find what I'm talking about. But the symbols are very much the same as the symbols that Barry is drawing when he comes out of the Speed Force. So I believe that the Speed Force was somehow telling Barry the future events of this season, and again, something from the future, or someone, preferably, as I mentioned earlier, a future The Flash, Wally West, will trigger this house is bitchin' to Barry, and that's how the Thinker will come down. But so much to digest. What an absolutely brilliant, amazing masterpiece of a premiere episode from The Flash. Let me know, of course, your thoughts down below in the comment section. I forgot to mention it in the open, so a reminder that if you would like to get caught up on any prior seasons of The Flash, you will find my Amazon affiliate links of all the previous seasons, as well as the 1990 Flash, down below at no extra cost to you. So please consider doing that if you're going to pick those up. If you haven't already subscribed, you can do so right now by hitting the round subscribe icon on your screen. Check out the Flash playlist for any The Flash related videos here on RazMansReality you may have missed, and support RazMansReality on Patreon. And as always, this has been your RazMansReality check.